a look at a particularly interesting car, 2005 Pontiac GTO. Now, if you remember, Chevrolet used to make a car called the El Camino. I'm sure you remember the El Camino. Of course you remember the El Camino. And it's always been a wonder and a speculation for a lot of people that what if Chevrolet kept making the El Camino in the United States? Would it have sold well? Would it have been cool? Would it have been well received? Who knows? Or so you'd think. So we just got back from Australia, and let me tell you something. El Caminos, or the Holden version of the El Camino, Holden's what GM is called in Australia, has never been discontinued ever. That platform has been around for decades, and it's as popular in Australia as, say, Toyota Tacomas are here in Hawaii, Cadillac Escalades are in Dallas, and BMW 3 Series are in Seattle. They are everywhere, and the first thing you're going to say is, how in the world did GM stop production of that vehicle when they're selling it in other parts of the world so successfully? Now, that same Holden chassis is the chassis for this Pontiac GTO, and it is incredibly powerful. So if you remember the original Mad Max movie with Mel Gibson, it featured a post-apocalyptic world in Australia where everyone drove extreme muscle cars. One of the reasons in that movie that captured the fancy of so many Australians isn't because in the future they drove extreme muscle cars. That's what they drive now. That's what they've always driven in Australia. The muscle car era has never faded in Australia. In the 70s, the muscle car era came to a screeching halt in the United States. That was not the case down under. Muscle cars are wildly abundant down under. And probably the preeminent maker of muscle cars is General Motors. And General Motors goes by the name of Holden in Australia. People ask all the time, why doesn't Holden sell its cars in the United States? Well, it did for a time. This car right here, the Pontiac GTO. In 2005, it puts out 400 horsepower. And so tremendous power, along with 395 pound-feet of torque. So incredible performance. The other thing about this car is it's not some new for the mid-2000s one-off car that Pontiac was doing or General Motors was doing. This is a car that's been around for years and years in Australia. As a result, the build quality is fully evolved, so to speak. And in fact, the build quality is superb on GTOs. Because it didn't sell particularly well, maybe because they called it a GTO and they should have called it something else, people have come to think that maybe it's not that nice of a car. The truth is, it's a spectacular car. Super duper fast, super duper well built, unbelievable quality. As a result, you get a car like that that's so distinctive, that is so rare, and has such incredible performance, even by today's standards. You have the makings of an almost certain collector car. So this is General Motors' 6-liter LS2 V8 engine. It puts out 400 horsepower to go with 395 foot-pounds of torque. In the prior year, this car has 350 horsepower, which is still fabulous horsepower, but 400 horsepower in a car of this size is absolutely phenomenal. The performance on this car is absolutely amazing. Let's take a look around. The lines on the GTO are very sleek. Not earth-shattering, because remember, this platform's been around for years and years before it came to the United States in Australia. It's simply fully evolved from a car that's been around for a generation. Taking a look inside, well, you're going to notice all GTOs have leather. They all have a 200-watt Blaupunkt 6-disc CD changer. They all have traction control and limited slip differential. In fact, there are no options available of any kind on the GTO except for one. It's your choice of an automatic transmission or a 6-speed manual transmission. Whether you get the automatic transmission or the manual transmission, that's the only option that's available on the GTO. So the trunk space is super reasonable. You've got a bunch of your gear and you want to get away for the weekend, or you're going to Costco or wherever you're headed off to, and you want to load it up for bear. Well, you're actually in pretty good shape. It is a high performance sports car, but it is still a practical daily driver. Gas mileage, if you average it out, you're going to average mid-teens. Not bad for as fast as it is. Let's take a look inside. The GTO is a misunderstood car. Didn't sell super well, but it didn't need to sell super well. It actually makes it better on the secondary market. It'd be different if there was some kind of problem with it, but you don't see too many people who have too many problems with GTOs. In fact, you tend to see rave reviews from GTO owners who absolutely love and adore their valued purchase. It's a neat, interesting car. You don't see that many of them. They are genuinely fast, genuinely superb handling, and super well built. Just a dynamite car.